You know, I never thought a quiet breakfast in our sleepy little town of Willow Creek could explode into something straight out of a movie. But that's exactly what went down that foggy morning at the Sunnyside Cafe, the kind of place where folks gather for greasy eggs and small talk, not drama. Old Jack Thompson, our 85-year-old Korean War vet, was sitting there in his usual booth, nursing a black coffee, his hands steady despite the years, when this hothead Mike Harlan stormed in like he owned the joint, his boots thumping loud enough to make the silverware rattle. Mike wasn't just any jerk, he was the local contractor who'd been pushing this shady land deal to bulldoze part of the old neighborhood for some strip mall, and Jack had been the one leading the charge against it at town meetings, calling out how it'd displace families and ruin what little charm our town had left. Mike hated him for it, saw Jack as some meddling fossil blocking his big payday. So yeah, this wasn't random, it was personal, brewing for months like bad coffee. The cafe went dead silent the second Mike shoved past the door, his face twisted in that smug rage he carried everywhere. You could feel the air thicken, folks freezing mid-bite, the waitress Jenny pausing with her pot hovering over a mug, her smile fading fast. Mike zeroed in on her first, barking, "What the hell is this slop? Tastes like dirt, pour it again, and make it right this time," splashing the hot liquid across the counter just to watch her flinch, his laugh low and mean, like he fed off making people small. Though Jack couldn't let that slide. He'd seen enough bullies in his life, from foxholes overseas to boardrooms back home, and silence in the face of cruelty? That ate at him deeper than any scar. So he cleared his throat, voice calm but cutting through the hush like a knife. "She's doing her job. Son, show a little respect. It don't cost you a dime." Mike whipped around, eyes narrowing on the old man, surprise flashing before it turned ugly. "Respect? From a washed-up geezer like you? You think your war stories give you the right to mouth off?" And before anyone could blink, his hand flew, slapping Jack hard across the face, the crack echoing, coffee spilling everywhere as Jack's head snapped sideways, a thin trickle of blood at his lip. But those blue eyes of his? They didn't waver, not for a second, locking onto Mike like he was staring down something pitiful. Not scary. The whole place held its breath, the truckers at the counter staring into their plates, the young mom with her kid hushing him tight, the mechanic couple in the corner gripping hands under the table, shame burning in their eyes because, yeah, they knew they should have spoken up, but fear's a sneaky bastard, isn't it? Mike leaned in close, breath reeking of last night's whiskey, grinning like he'd won already. "See that? Nobody here's gonna lift a finger for you, old-timer. You're nothing but a relic waiting to be forgotten." And he grabbed Jack's cane, smashing it against the booth edge with a splintering crack, shards flying, just to prove his point. But Jack straightened slow, adjusting his glasses with fingers that barely trembled, whispering so quiet it rattled louder than a shout. "I've faced worse from men who thought they were unbreakable. You'll learn the hard way, just like they did." Inside Jack's head, memories flooded back, the mud and gunfire of Korea, burying buddies too young, the promise he'd made to himself never to bow to tyrants, no matter their size. This wasn't just a slap to him. It was an attack on everything he'd fought for, on the quiet dignity he'd built his life around. And damn if it didn't stir something fierce in him, a resolve that age couldn't touch. But Mike kept pushing, yanking Jack by the collar. "Say it again. Tell me how respect's free, you fossil." And Jack met his glare, steady as ever. "Respect's free, but cowardice? That'll cost you everything you think you got." Words landing like punches Mike couldn't dodge, his face twisting, veins popping, the room sucking in air as one, but still nobody moved. Until that low rumble started outside, faint at first, like distant thunder rolling in from the fields, growing louder, shaking the windows, cups trembling on saucers, motorcycle engines, dozens of headlights cutting through the fog like spotlights on a stage. Mike froze, confusion cracking his tough guy mask. "What the hell is that?" But Jack just dabbed his lip, a faint smile creeping in, knowing exactly what was coming. See, his daughter Sarah wasn't your average gal. She'd grown up hearing his stories, channeling that fire into riding with the Thunder Riders, a local biker crew known for looking out for their own. And word travels fast in a small town, especially when Jenny the waitress had slipped out back to text her after the slap, whispering about the old vet getting roughed up by that land-grabbing bully. The door burst open then, wind whipping in with the rain, and there she was, Sarah Thompson, hair slicked back, leather jacket dripping, eyes blazing like she'd bring hell itself, striding in with Big Tom, the Thunder Riders' leader, a burly guy with a beard streaked gray and patches that screamed, "Don't mess with us." And behind them, a sea of bikes, maybe 100 strong. Engines roaring in unison, the ground vibrating, fear flipping to fire in an instant. Sarah's gaze locked on her dad, seeing the blood, her fists clenching. "Who did this to you?" Voice low, trembling with that daughterly fury that could move mountains, and Jack placed a hand on hers, soft but firm. "Easy, Sarah, it's all right." But her eyes had already found Mike, cutting through him like lasers. Mike tried to puff up. "You think bringing your biker pals makes you tough? Without him, you're nothing but a daddy's girl hiding behind leather," sarcasm dripping. But Sarah stepped closer, toe to toe. "This ain't about them, it's about you laying hands on my father, the man who fought for this country while you schemed to tear it apart for your greedy deals. If you touch him again, you'll answer to me first." Big Tom loomed behind her, arms crossed, his silence heavier than any threat. "You picked the wrong vet to mess with, pal. We've got his back, and yours? It's about to break." The tension coiled tight, Mike swinging wild now, arm raised like he might strike again. "You all talk, no guts," but Jack's voice boomed. "Enough," freezing everyone, even the bikers straightening at the command in it, his words deep and wise. "Strength ain't about hitting hard, it's about holding back when you could crush 'em. You've mistaken kindness for weakness, Mike, and that's why your land grabs. You're bullying, it'll all come crashing down." Sarah held her ground, fire warring with her dad's lesson. The cafe patrons shifting now, inspired, Jenny crossing her arms. "Why don't you just leave?" The trucker nodding. "Yeah, time's up." Voices rising like a chorus, the mom staring him down. "You don't scare us anymore." And the young mechanic kid standing tall. "We've had enough of your crap." Mike spun, panic in his eyes, realizing the room had turned not with fists, but with words, with resolve, his power slipping away like sand, backing toward the door, muttering threats that fell flat. "This ain't over," but Sarah whispered, "For you, it is." And as he pushed out into the roar of engines, flinching at the revs that shook him to his core, the cafe exhaled. Life stirring again, but changed, folks nodding at Jack with respect, Jenny pouring him a fresh cup on the house, the kid tipping his cap in awe. Jack slid back into his booth, Sarah across from him, her hands still shaking from restraint. "I should have decked him, Dad, for what he did," but Jack squeezed her hand, eyes soft with pride. "No, honey, you stood tall, showed him real strength." Fists fade, but lessons like this? They stick, change folks from the inside. Big Tom clapped Jack on the shoulder. "You've got more steel than half my crew, old man." And outside, the bikers idled, guardians in the mist, as the sun peeked through, turning the lot golden. But here's the thing that still nags at me: was calling in the riders true justice, or just another kind of intimidation? Mike slunk away shamed, his deals probably crumbling after that. But did we trade one bully for a show of force, or was it the only way to make him see? Small towns like ours, with HOA power plays and old grudges over land, it's messy sometimes. Respect wins quiet. Sometimes it roars in on Harleys. What do you think? Was Sarah right to bring the thunder, or should have they let the law handle it? Drop a comment below. Share if you faced a bully like Mike.